Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Totally Awesome Podcast. My name is JoshAgeddon. I know what you're thinking. Wow, 2025, and we're barely into January, and we've already had so many podcasts. Well, guess what? Here's another one. I love to talk, okay? Anyone that knows me or has seen 10 seconds of any video I've ever made would probably come to the conclusion, this guy likes to talk. Well, yeah, and honestly, I was going to do this a couple days ago, but I've been busy, mostly sleeping, because sleep is important, ladies and gentlemen. Never forget these sage words of wisdom. Sleep more, do less. Yeah, I was going to get this up earlier, but I'm doing it today. It's a teeny bit late, but again, I've been kind of exhausted. Part of why is because over the past couple days, I have watched so much wrestling. Like, to the point where my therapist, if I had one, would probably recommend a different therapist because they're just tired of me at this point. Over the past couple days, have watched the two shows I'm going to be reviewing today, Wrestle Kingdom 19 and Wrestle Dynasty. I also watched the first episode of Raw on Netflix, which I thought was a pretty good show. And I watched my show, TAW Action, which was the shortest show of the four because it was only an hour. You're welcome. Don't want to just destroy my audience's attention span with an overly long episode of my show, at least not until the pay-per-view. But yeah, I watched 4 wrestling shows, and I'm tired. God help me, I'm just tired. There's a reason why I spent most of yesterday sleeping, because I watched wrestling just for far too long, and it's not going to stop, because in just a couple weeks we have the Royal Rumble, and it's just never going to end. It is never going to end, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, the point of this podcast is going to be me reviewing New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 19, as well as the cross-promotion New Japan, AEW, ROH, Stardom show, Wrestle Dynasty. I watched both shows. It was excruciating. Not because the shows were bad, but because, oh my god, so much wrestling. Wrestle Kingdom 19, I thought was a pretty good show. And Wrestle Dynasty, I thought was an okay show. I thought Wrestle Kingdom was the clearly superior of the two nights. Wrestle Dynasty was not as good as the previous night. Of course, Wrestle Kingdom was on January 4th. Wrestle Dynasty was on the 5th. And again, I thought Wrestle Kingdom was a better show. Although this particular Wrestle Kingdom was kind of weaker than previous Wrestle Kingdoms. Like, I thought last year's Wrestle Kingdom was better. It honestly kind of didn't really feel like a Wrestle Kingdom, if I'm being perfectly honest. Again, it wasn't a bad show. I thought it was a good show, but it just didn't feel as big of a deal as it normally does. It kind of felt like a B show that was setting up for Wrestle Kingdom, as opposed to Wrestle Kingdom itself. But I'll cut New Japan some slack because they feel like they're still in a rebuilding, reconstructing period. Which, I mean, considering everything that's been going on in New Japan and in wrestling around the world, especially since the pandemic, it's completely understandable. They're still trying to figure things out, and this show felt like a we're still trying to figure things out show. Which again did not feel quite as big as I feel like New Japan's WrestleMania should feel. Like, I feel like production-wise and like storyline-wise and just quality-wise, WrestleMania later this year is going to completely blow this year's Wrestle Kingdom out of the water. Kind of like how WrestleMania 40 kind of blew Wrestle Kingdom 18 out of the water. I feel like more of the same is going to happen this year. But again, New Japan's kind of in rebuilding mode, so I will cut them a lot of slack. I did enjoy the show. There wasn't really anything on this particular night that blew me out of my underwear. Completely knocked my socks off. It was just, there were several good to really good matches. There was not that Tokyo Dome main event caliber match. There was one match on Wrestle Dynasty that did kind of feel like that. And I will get to that later in the video because I'm going to be reviewing both shows. But again, starting with Wrestle Kingdom 19. And now you're probably wondering, well, if Wrestle Dynasty had that Tokyo Dome feeling match in it, wouldn't that be the better show? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Just because the best match of the two shows is on the lesser show, that doesn't mean that show's the better show. Like, structure-wise, and like matches actually feeling important, and just the overall feel and just the flow of the show, Wrestle Kingdom 19 was better. Whereas on Wrestle Dynasty, there were a couple matches that just kind of felt random. There were several just throwing a dart at a spinning dartboard, and okay, that's the match we're gonna do. Which the show was an AEW crossover pay-per-view, so the random number wrestler generator match has Tony Khan written all over it, so that makes so much sense. But yeah, there were a couple matches on Wrestle Dynasty that just felt kind of random and just, this dude's wrestling this dude because reasons. And it's kind of hard for me to get into those, just because matches. I need a little bit more than that. But there was nothing truly awful on either show. So we're going to start off again with Wrestle Kingdom 19. And we're starting off, well, also, again, I also want to point out before I really get into both shows, I did not watch either pre-show. I'm racist against pre-shows. That's my gimmick. So I did not watch the pre-show on either show. I did not watch the Rambo. Although I did hear that they changed the rules to where the winner will be challenging for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship later on in the future. So I like that because it makes that match feel more important. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go back and watch it. I'm good. So who won that match? Hiroki Goto won that match. So we're going to be getting Goto versus Zack Sabre Jr. at some point. I'm probably not going to watch that. I'm not going to lie. As much as I love Zack Sabre Jr., and we'll get to him. But we kicked off the actual show with a 4-way Tokyo Terror ladder match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. This was every car crash ladder match you've ever seen. And already I can tell that Sean has checked out because this is the year where Sean has just thrown up his hands in frustration as far as multiple man ladder matches are concerned. That kind of happened last year, but I feel like this is the year where he's not even going to tolerate it at all. Shout out to my good buddy Sean McCarty. I still enjoy multi-man ladder matches. I like me a good spot fest. This match in particular, it was the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita, the prince of all Fujitas. They defeated the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida. Catch 2-2, TJP and Francesco Akira. And Bullet Club War Dogs, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, because Bullet Club is still a thing for some reason. This match was okay. It felt very safe and just like, this was the most let's try not to hurt each other ladder match I've seen in a while. Which, if you're going to let's try not to hurt each other, the ladder match, then don't even do a ladder match. But the alternative is this just being a regular Fatal 4-Way tag team match. If that were the case, immediate skip for me. Last year, and the year before that, honestly, both 2023 and 2024 were the years where I just threw up my hands in frustration, like, fuck multi-tag matches. I'm done. So the fact that this was a ladder match kind of was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Not to say this match was bad. It was just kind of there, and it was just, it was nothing I haven't seen before. But I will say that Drilla Maloney, in particular in this match, looked terrible. There were 3 spots in particular that he did or was involved with that just looked like garbage. And also, okay, this brings me to one of my least favorite things about New Japan. They've got to get new tables and new chairs. Like, I know that some people are so over the hardcore stuff, like they don't care about chairs anymore, they don't care about tables. I don't mind them when they're used, when they're necessary. Like, I loved the usage of chairs and tables in the Hell in a Cell match with Drew and CM Punk because, it felt like it was needed and necessary. But my God, I will take the tables in WWE and the chairs in WWE over the chairs and tables in New Japan any day of the week, because these tables just look so goofy. They look like miniature toy tables. And I'm sorry, these chairs in New Japan, like, I at least buy in WWE and in AEW that the chairs they use actually hurt. They make a good sound and they look like metal. I don't know if they're gimmick chairs, but they're either gimmick chairs or they're real chairs. The point is they look and sound brutal. Like on Raw and Netflix, when Roman Reigns and Solo were wearing each other out with the chairs, it sounded brutal. These chairs suck ass. They don't sound good. They don't look good. And it's silly. And these tables I hate these tables. They just don't look menacing. Like the WWE and AEW tables, I'm like, someone's gonna go through that and it'll look like it hurts, like it's a staple. These tables, they just look stupid. These tables look stupid, and I hate them. But Drilla picked up Kushida at one point, and the idea was he had a table up against the barricade, and the idea was he was going to like give him a Drilla killer through a table, which is basically he gets him up in like an almost razor's edge position, but switches it into a pile driver. He did that, but Kushida completely missed the table, but he had to sell it anyway, and the announcers were scrambling to cover for it, like, oh, that was devastating. If it connected, I think. He tried. An attempt was made. It was interesting. That spot looked terrible, and I was like, just any other camera angle but the one they went with. They went with the worst camera angle. Like if they shot from behind, if they shot that from behind, it would have looked better. But his head didn't hit the table. They barely touched the table. The table did not break, because the only way to get these stupid Japanese tables, that sounded racist. The only way to get these stupid Japanese tables to break is to hit square in the middle, because they only break one way. Another reason why like the Western tables are better is because the Western AEW, WWE tables, like if you breathe too hard in their direction, any part of that table will break. These Japanese tables, they only break in the middle. They only break one way, and it's just not appealing to me. But yeah, he completely missed the table, and surprise, surprise, it didn't break, and it just looked terrible. Later on, one of the guys, and again, I'm not familiar with all of these guys and their names, but this one dude was on the ladder, and his partner had Drilla in a neck breaker position, because their move is akin to Motor City Machine Gun's Skull and Bones, where he has him in a neck breaker, and Shelley comes off the top rope with a splash. They tried to do this where one dude had Drilla in a neck breaker position on the mat, like regular standing position, and his partner came flying off the ladder for the crossbody. The problem is, he completely whiffed. It was a certified CIW 10% connection, and they again shot it from the absolute worst angle that they could have, and it just looked like garbage. And I was just like, oh my god. Stop. If you're not even going to do it, then don't do it. And we weren't done yet with the Drilla Maloney Express of dog shit. Later on, him and someone else were brawling on the ladder. A lot of these dudes just bleed together with me, honestly. I think he was on the ladder with TJP. Maybe. And whoever he was fighting against gave him a light kick. This motherfucker leans forward and jumps off the ladder, does a front flip back bump off the ladder because he got kicked once. Just the worst kind of overselling, to where it was cartoonish and fake looking. And I was just, again, like, oh my, dude, are you actively trying to make this match look like shit? I was not a fan of Drilla Maloney in this matchup. Everyone else looked fine, And they did, like, you know, the ladder spots you would expect. But everything Drilla Maloney was involved with looked like shit. And then Robbie Eagles and Fujita won the match by ripping down the belts. And I liked the finish. He had the dude basically in a chokehold on the ladder and then ripped down the belts after he choked the dude out and then won the match. So that was cool. Again, the match was fine. It's just everything that Drilla did was terrible, and it really brought the match down. This was honestly my least favorite thing on the show. If you're going to do a crazy car crash ladder match, commit to the spot. Okay? Because this pussyfooted, I don't want to do the spot, so I'm going to do it as carefully as possible to the point where it looks so ridiculous and fake that I shouldn't have even bothered doing it. If you're going to do that, then don't bother. I would much rather sit through, I would much rather it be a regular 4-way tag team match that I'll just skip anyway, than a ladder match that I'm going to watch where they pussyfoot around spots. Like, nothing is worse than when someone pussyfoots around a spot that's kind of dangerous. If you're going to pussyfoot around a dangerous spot, then don't even bother, okay? If you're going to do a spot, commit. But yeah, that is how we kicked off the show. So not off to the greatest of starts, but things immediately picked up with this following match. For the IWGP Women's Championship, we had Mayu Iwatani defending against AZM. I've never heard of either of these people before. And let me just say, these two women put on a better match than 90% of women's wrestling matches over here in the West in all of 2024. Like, the one match that comes to mind that I think was better than this match was Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 40. Because that was arguably the best women's match of the year. Like, literally every other women's match in WWE and AEW was not as good as this match between Mayu and AZM. And they only went 8 minutes and 45 seconds. They beat the shit out of each other. Like, my criticism of if you're not going to commit, then don't do it. These two understood the assignment. They understood the criticism. They beat the shit out of each other. They went 100 miles per hour because they didn't have as much time as I feel like they honestly should have gotten. But man, they made the best out of it. This felt like two athletes that are skilled at what they do trying to kill each other to win this damn belt. And I was thoroughly entertained throughout this bout. Again, it wasn't very long, but they made the most of it. And again, they just beat the piss. The striking in this match. One of the ladies got a busted lip, which I'm not surprised because, again, they weren't holding back. They were not holding back. They were going in hard. This is honestly one of the best women's matches I've seen in a good while. There was a move that I've never seen before, which was a double underhook Canadian Destroyer, which they did one Canadian Destroyer, and then she picked her up and, hooked the arms, and I was like, she's not going to do a pedigree Canadian Destroyer, is she? And then she did, and my jaw was on the floor, because I was like, how in the world do you do that? B, do you do that without the person taking the move dying via internal decapitation? My only problem with that, though, is it only led to a near fall, because of course. That was the only problem with that. That should be a finish. That should be a finishing move. That is my only critique of this match is the double underhook Canadian Destroyer. That should have been the finish. But of course it wasn't, because modern wrestling pile drivers are only dangerous in WWE. So credit to WWE, and there's a reason why WWE is the most profitable and successful wrestling organization in the world right now, and why they're doing ridiculous business right now. That's just one example of why WWE is the best right now. In WWE, it's the one place where a pile driver is treated as a serious, potentially career-threatening maneuver that you shouldn't do. And again, everywhere else, it's just another move. Just saying. But I did like the finish because the finish was basically one of them, I think it was Mayu, got her up for a German, but stalled, and then hooked the arms for I think it was a dragon suplex. It was a delayed German into a dragon suplex with a bridge. That was cool. That was a cool move. So again, the double underhook Canadian Destroyer, that should be a finishing move, but I will accept the German delayed into a full Nelson dragon suplex with a bridge. That was one thing I've noticed about Japanese female wrestling, Japanese women's wrestling. All of their finishing moves are either a moonsault or a bridging pin of some kind. I don't know what it is about Japanese women's wrestling, but they love moonsaults winning matches, and they love bridging suplex pins to finish matches. I don't know what it is. It's just the way it is. I don't know. Double underhook Canadian Destroyer should have ended the match, but that's my only complaint. But this was very good. This was very good. I honestly wish that part of me honestly kind of wishes that I pulled a Sean and skipped the ladder match and just started with this, because this would have been a hot start to the show. But then, speaking of four-ways, we had a fatal four-way match for the New Japan World Television Championship, which was Ren Narita defending the title against El Phantasmo, Jeff Cobb, and Ryohei Oiya, if that's how you pronounce his name, I guess. This was way better than the ladder match. This was, like, of the two four-way matches on the show, this was the much better one. Because, again, everything everyone did, they committed to, and it worked, and it was fun, and everyone looked good in the match. Especially Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb is something else. This dude he's basically New Japan's Jacob Fatu. Like, I wish Jeff Cobb would go to WWE. He's such a special talent, and he looks like $1 million. He looks like someone who could, like, literally fucking kill you. And he's just obscenely athletic. But yeah, this was some fun action. Honestly, my only criticism of this match is the title that they're fighting over continues to be the ugliest championship in all of wrestling. The New Japan Television Championship is absolutely hideous. It's that weird cardboard cutout rectangle box thing that they call a championship. That's just not worth fighting over. What is it with New Japan and really ugly belts? Some of their belts look good. But then we have the New Japan Television Championship that just looks like ass. And their World Heavyweight Championship, their most important title, the IWGP World title, also is kind of ugly. Even the women's title is kind of ugly. It looks like a half-eaten cookie. The best looking belt in this promotion right now is the IWGP Global Heavyweight title, which is basically their brand new secondary belt that's just just now a year old. But yeah, get better belts, New Japan. I love New Japan, but they've got, I miss their older belts look good. The old IWGP World title it was one of the prettiest looking belts. And their Intercontinental title, before it was merged together with the World title, also a very pretty looking belt. And now just some of their belts are just complete total eyesores. But yeah, there's not too much to talk about with this four-way. Again, my thing about every Wrestle Kingdom, every New Japan show I've ever seen, the first couple matches don't really matter. And there's not all that much to digest or talk about, except for when what's his name, Drilla Maloney is over here just making spots look terrible. Not even fucking up spots, just making them look terrible. So yeah, there's not all that much to talk about. El Phantasmo won, which was a very good feel-good moment because the dude just got back from a very serious bout with cancer. He's cancer-free, and I do feel like that's why he won this match. So, but it was a very good feel-good moment, and from what this is the first time I've ever seen El Phantasmo, and he looked really good in the ring. I like the dude. He has an interesting look, and he has an interesting moveset as well. So, I'm glad he won. This was a very good feel-good moment. I just wish the belt didn't look like a pile of dog shit. But yeah, this was a fun 4-way match. Moving on, we had one of the matches of the show. This was a match that happened. The president of New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi, versus Evil in a lumberjack death match. For those of you that don't know, Hiroshi Tanahashi is doing the John Cena retirement tour, where basically he's going on, this is my last year as an active competitor, and next Wrestle Kingdom 20, is when Hiroshi's going to have his retirement match, so he's basically copying John Cena, which it makes sense because he is New Japan's John Cena, so it makes sense. This match was a mess because it's a lumberjack match, and there's going to be tons of interference and bullshit. I don't know why it was a death match, because New Japan only used their crappy chairs just once in this match. So, again, they've got to get better looking chairs. The weapons in New Japan look like garbage, and I'm never going to get over that. I'm never going to stop complaining about that. Like, if you're going to use weapons, make the weapons look like they hurt. I like Evil, and his entrance on this show was badass. I like Evil. But he loves this spot where he puts one crappy looking chair around someone's neck and picks up another crappy looking chair and gives it a love tap. And it's supposed to be this devastating, neck breaking move that, oh my god, oh, he's such a evil bastard. It doesn't look good. It never looks good. And I wish he would stop doing it, because there's no way that hurts. There's no way that I would be able to sell even mild discomfort with that spot, and I wish he would stop doing it. But this was just an interference fest. It wasn't bad. It wasn't, because I've heard a lot of people, like one of my favorite wrestling reviewers, one of my favorite wrestling podcasters is a Solid Monster, and he panned this match. He thought it was dog shit. I didn't hate it. When Tanahashi and Evil were going toe-to-toe, it was good. It's just they kept getting interrupted by the lumberjack bullshit. It was like a good match that kept getting interrupted by bullshit. So that was annoying. But whenever Tanahashi and Evil were going toe-to-toe, it was fun. It was good, and I liked it. Tanahashi, even though he's much older and his knees are made out of glass and sandpaper, being held together by duct tape and prayers, even though he's old and kind of broken down, he's still got it. Like, he's still got it, even though he's a lot slower. And I loved the finish. I loved the finish of this match. Evil puts him down with the Everything is Evil STO, but right when he's going for the cover, Tanahashi cradles him and pins him. He didn't no-sell his finishing move. He sold it after he pinned it, but it's kind of like when at No Mercy 2008, when Jeff Hardy hit Triple H with a swanton and then tried to go for the pin, but Triple H crucifixed him for the win. It was kind of like that, and then immediately Triple H sold the swanton after getting the winning pin. So it was basically that finish, but I really liked the way they did it. And then after the match was over, we got more people storming the ring. Evil's stable, the House of Torture, they got in the ring and started beating the shit out of everybody. But then Katsuyori Shibata came out and cleared everyone out, and then challenged Hiroshi Tanahashi to a match on the following night, Wrestle Dynasty, which Hiroshi Tanahashi accepted, and then they had their match on the previous, their quote unquote match on the following night on Wrestle Dynasty, which I will get to, because that was my least favorite thing on either show. It was a complete waste of time, but I'll get to it. So that was a thing that happened. This match was a thing that happened. I didn't hate it. It was just stuff like this is why it felt more like a build-up show instead of the main show of the year. You know what I'm saying? This just felt like a B show. Like, you had a lumberjack death match, which didn't even feel like a death match. There was only one spot where weapons were used, and the rest of it was just interference and just wrestling. So this was a thumbs in the middle match, definitely. But up next, after this, We had our second really, really good match. Konosuke Takeshita, the AEW International Champion, versus Shingo Takagi, the New Japan Never Openweight Champion, in a double title match. This was really good. This was really, really... Dude, Konosuke Takeshita is so ridiculously good. This dude had a fantastic match here with Shingo Takagi, and then the following night, he had an even better match against Tomohiro Ishii. So, just mazel tov to both of these guys. I really like Shingo Takagi. The dude is intense, and he brings it every match. Although, again, I feel like I complained about this on last year's Wrestle Kingdom. Too many belts. It was even worse the following night on Wrestle Dynasty, but still, too many championships. You don't need a World TV title, a Never Openweight title, a Junior Heavyweight title, a Global Heavyweight title, and a World title. What is the Never Openweight title for? I know, I get it. This is the championship for the people that beat the shit out of each other the most. And there's also the one that Eddie Kingston had at one point. What's it called? The New Japan Strong Never Openweight title. The Strong Openweight title. What is the difference between that one and this one? No one explained it to me last year, and again I'm asking the same question. What is the difference between the Never Openweight Strong title and the regular Never Openweight title? Too many belts. Way too many belts. And again, we have Konosuke with the AEW International title, which is from another company that has way too many belts. And now now WWE is like, all these other companies have 40 bajillion belts. Women's secondary belts. Let's do it. Yeah. You're killing me. Everyone in wrestling is killing me right now. Can we have less belts? Less is fucking more. More is less. Can you feel my frustration? There are way too many championships in professional wrestling. But anyway, that rant aside, this was a really good match between Takeshita and Takagi. They beat the fuck out of each other. It's one thing I really love about New Japan. They do not hold back when it comes to stiff strikes. And this was probably the stiffest, strikiest, if that's the way to describe it. This match had the stiffest strikes. The following night, I believe Takeshita and Ishii had the stiffest strikes of the entire weekend. But this was second place. Dude, nobody on earth throws an elbow strike like Takeshita. This dude always makes it looks like he doesn't look like he just broke someone's jaw. He looks like he disintegrates people's jaws with these elbow strikes. How the fuck has he not legitimately knocked someone's jaw out of their mouth? Seriously. Like, have any of you ever seen that movie, Case 39, where this dude gets slammed up against something and that cuts back to him and his jaw is, like, dislocated and it's gross looking? How the fuck has Konosuke not done that to someone by accident yet? He hits them so hard. I would never, ever, ever, ever want to get hit by this man. Ever. Sounds like a bad day at the office. And then they hit each other really hard a lot. They had Takeshita kick out of Takagi's finishing move, which is made in Japan, which is a sick-looking move. But he won with his... okay, I do have another complaint. This show had a thing where it was, let's hit our finishing move from the top rope and have them kick out, just so we can hit our finishing move just regularly, and then that's what gets the win. There was a couple instances of that on both shows, especially with Zack Sabre Jr., which I'll get to. They did that in this match. He hit, and I think he hit it, again, it's been a couple days since I saw this, but he did the same thing in the match with Ishii, his Raging Fire, which is just a spinning Falcon Arrow, which, not gonna lie, I like the Power Drive knee as his finishing move better, but it's what. Remember back at Full Gear when he defeated Ricochet with a top rope Falcon Arrow and it just felt random? Again, I love Takeshita, but we're at the point where really a Falcon Arrow is your finishing move. Seth Rollins would be so disappointed in you. But, I mean, he hit him with the Raging Fire to win both the international title and the Never Openweight Championship. This was a very good match. Very, very good match. They beat the absolute piss out of each other, which, considering the two people in the match, I would expect nothing less. Can we get both Jeff Cobb and Takeshita to join WWE, please? Please? I would love that. I would love that. Takeshita's so good. He's so amazing. But anyway. Moving on. Okay, this match. Unfortunately, I do not have all that much to say about this match because it was El Desperado versus Doki. I'm trying so hard not to say Dookie because I don't want to besmirch this man considering what happened. El Desperado versus Doki in a singles match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. This match had a good start and was on its way to being a good match, but 5 minutes in, Doki did a senton out of the ring and landed awkwardly on his arm, and this was the oh god, no moment of the weekend. This dude's elbow bent backwards, and oh my god, that was hard to look at. Oh man. It made me think of when Luchasaurus chokeslammed Rey Fenix through a table, and Rey Fenix landed arm first underneath, his arm like bent backward underneath the table as the table was breaking, and he hyperextended his elbow like that, somehow did not break his arm. This was not as bad as that, but this was still pretty bad. This dude fucked up his elbow real good. Although I heard that he didn't break his arm somehow. He only dislocated his elbow. Still, that looked pretty bad. And hats off to New Japan. They saw that and they were like, fuck that, and immediately stopped the match. So good on New Japan for just not taking any chances on that and immediately stopping the match. It was kind of sad. It kind of sucked. And El Desperado, you could tell that he was very disappointed. He was like, man. And he got on the mic and said, this is not, basically, it was in a different language, but the commentators basically did translation for him. He's basically said, this is not how I wanted this to go. I want a rematch when you're well. So, my best well wishes to Doki. Get better, man. That looked nasty. Maybe lay off on some of the high-flying diving stuff. Or unless you want to go the route of Vikingo and get injured literally every time you step in the ring at this point. But yeah, that was nasty. This was just unfortunate. And it always sucks to see this happen to somebody. Especially, like, they're at Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. This is like the stage that people work their entire lives to get to. And yeah, that must have sucked. And the match was on its way to being a really good match. It just had to stop soon because this dude legit got injured, and you never want to see that. But anyway, up next, we had David Finlay defending the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship against Yota Tsuji. This was honestly my favorite match of the night. This was really, really, really good. David Finlay impressed the shit out of me in this match. First off, when David Finlay walked out for his entrance, it took me a couple seconds to go, oh my god, is that David Finlay? Dude looks completely different. I don't know if it's just because he's wearing his hair differently, but like it's also just his demeanor, his posture. And physically he looks more fit. Dude has had a makeover. He looks really, really good. And he had a great match with Yota Tsuji. They, again, beat the shit out of each other. Not quite to the level of Takeshita and Takagi earlier. But, again, they beat the piss out of each other. David Finlay was just hauling his ass around the ring. Dude is deceptively powerful. And I also really like Yota Tsuji. He has a really cool look. And the way he was dressed, he honestly kind of looked like Shinsuke Nakamura from... I think it was Wrestle Kingdom 9 when he had that epic match against Kota Ibushi. Like that red pants look that Shinsuke Nakamura used to, like old school Shinsuke Nakamura used to wear during his King of Strong style days, where he basically was paying homage to Michael Jackson. That's basically how Yota Tsuji was dressed in this match. But yeah, they had a banger match, probably my favorite match on this show. Not of the weekend, but on Wrestle Kingdom 19. And there were several, and they actually did a really good job protecting finishers in this match. For example, Yota Tsuji's finishing move is a massive tsunami of a spear, and David Finlay got to the ropes instead of just kicking out of it, which I appreciated. But yeah, Yota Tsuji defeated David Finlay to win the IWGP Global Heavyweight title with a second spear. So Yota Tsuji won the match. And one of my favorite things in the match is a comment that one of the commentators made was basically them saying, David Finlay had a newborn son this past year, and he still said that his son is his second favorite thing that he created in 2024, the first being the IWGP Global Heavyweight title. That is such a heelish, dickish thing to say, and I loved it. Just the fact that he values this championship more than his newborn baby. That's hysterical. That's some old school heel shit right there, and I am here for it. So, while Yota Tsuji won this match, David Finlay won me over like crazy in this match. He looked really, really good in this. But yeah, this was my favorite match of Wrestle Kingdom. Very, very good match between these two. And yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about some of these matches, but again, I'm reviewing two shows. I'm not going to spend 40 minutes breaking down brick by brick, move by move, all 20 of these matches, okay? So, if you're like, you didn't go into enough detail about these listen, I watched like 12 hours of wrestling. Give me a break. I'm tired. There's a lot to get through, and not a whole lot of time to get through all of it, so just... I'll talk about what I want to talk about, motherfucker. If you want to talk about more, get your own podcast. So yeah, it was a good match. Moving on to, okay, we had up next Tetsuya Naito versus Hiromu Takahashi in a singles match. Right off the bat, okay, it is a running joke with me, Sean, and Skylar. On this edition of What the Fuck is Seth Rollins Wearing? Nothing Seth Rollins has ever worn has ever come anywhere close to the amount of weird and what the actual fuck am I looking at that Hiromu reached on this edition of Wrestle Kingdom. Dude, I don't even know how to describe what Hiromu was wearing when he came out to this match. He was wearing this weird-ass, really large cartoon character monstrosity type thing suit. I don't even know how he got out there wearing. I don't know how he knew how he could see where he was going. I don't know how he could move in that thing. You literally have to go look this up. I have a short on, I recorded a short, and it's on this channel. Go look at my most recent short. It is Takahashi coming to ringside wearing this absolute nightmare fuel monstrosity. I don't know. I don't know how to describe what I was looking at. Seth Rollins has never worn anything that comes anywhere close to as weird as what Takahashi was wearing. Seth Rollins once came down to the ring wearing what looked like a vagina with an STD attached to it. And even that was not anywhere near as weird as whatever the hell Takahashi was wearing during his entrance. Just what kind of drugs do they have in Japan? This was an only in Japan kind of moment. They got some weird motherfuckers over in Japan, just saying. This match was fine. But upon hearing that before this match, Naito had multiple eye surgeries to prepare for this match, maybe having this match was not the smartest move. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But if you thought Hiroshi Tanahashi was moving in slow motion, may I present you 2025 Tetsuya Naito. Again, he didn't look awful, but he looked like the Tetsuya Naito of old at half speed in this match. And one of the commentators said he actually got eye surgery on his opposite eye to make his opposite eye worse, to even out how bad his other eye was, which I'm not an eye doctor. I'm not an optometrist. Is an optometrist an eye doctor? Optometrist. Yes, an optometrist is an eye doctor. I had to Google that real quick to make sure I was saying the right thing. You just heard me live on air quickly fact check myself to make sure I was saying the right thing. But I'm no optometrist. But is that how eyes work? Is that how eyeballs work? If you have one eye that's really bad and one eye that's really good, does getting surgery to make the good eye bad to even things out? What? I don't understand the logic. You do you, I guess, but that is certainly an interesting usage of funds and resources. But yeah, you could kind of tell, like, I will commend Tetsuya Naito for trying his hardest, and Hiromu for trying his best to protect Naito throughout this match, because you could tell, like, it wasn't super obvious, but you could tell that Hiromu was doing everything in his power to make sure that Naito made it through this match okay, and to, you know, not hurt him in any way, shape, or form. So, kudos, but honestly, watching this, the whole time I was thinking, you don't have to be doing this. Like, if you've had 4 eye surgeries and you're at this point in your career, you don't need to be doing this anymore. Like, it was just kind of sad watching. Like, I love Naito and all, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, Naito, love you, buddy, but you should probably, for your own health, especially if you are seeing double and triple, probably need to retire. Because I don't think surgery to make one of your eyes worse on purpose is going to cut it. I don't think wrestling with glasses is going to work, and I don't think wrestling with contacts is going to work either. And yes, the irony is not lost on me that the guy that does the eyeball gesture thing that is his trademark has bad eyesight. That irony is not lost on me, not at all. But again, this match was fine. It was just slow plotting, and there were things, like, there were parts where you could tell that Naito was struggling. And it was a little sad. Again, it was similar to the Tanahashi Evil match, but there was no, honestly, in this match, it would have been better if it was a lumberjack match where every couple minutes you could have them rest while a bunch of bullshit was happening with 80 other people getting involved. That would have helped this match, honestly, to help mask Naito, because as old and as broken down as Tanahashi is, he doesn't really need that to mask how old and broken down he is. He can still kind of go. Naito, I feel, needs the smoke and mirrors, honestly. Like, I would not have Naito in a match unless there was smoke and mirrors in it, because just he did not look great. I commend him for trying, but he did not look. He was obviously not the Naito of old. And Naito won the match. And I loved the post-match where they were like, we're master and student, and even though I beat you, we're still friends. Because again, Naito's thing is he's tranquilo, he's cool, he doesn't really show emotion, but he showed a little bit of emotion for Hiromu. Probably was traumatized like the rest of us when Hiromu came out to the ring wearing whatever the fuck he was wearing. I still have no idea how to describe it. And I'm probably that is what my sleep paralysis demon is afraid of. So yeah, this was an okay match, but I question even doing this match at all, honestly. Again, it was stuff like this throughout the entire night that was really weighing the show down, and it was making it feel like this was the B show more than anything. This did not feel like Wrestle Kingdom. This did not feel like New Japan's WrestleMania, and stuff like this is why. And then we had our main event. My boy, Zack Sabre Jr. defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Shota Umino in a singles match in our main event. I thought this was very, very good. However, this went on for way too long. This went 43 minutes and 44 seconds. They should have cut this off at 30. This was a 40-minute match that should have gone 30. Because there were parts of this match where they were standing around pontificating and postulating, and it was very transparent and blatantly obvious that they were doing this to pad the runtime. Because this is the Tokyo Dome main event. It has to go for an hour. Or 3. Listen, I know that Triple H is a prominent figure in wrestling, but why is everyone taking his motto to heart that long equals good? Long does not always equal good. Good equals good. There are some matches that go very long, but it fits and it works and it doesn't feel long. Like the classic quadrilogy between Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, all of their matches, except for the G1 Climax match, which it had a time limit, so of course it couldn't go long. But Omega and Okada had 3 matches. One went about 40, one was an hour time limit draw, and the 2 out of 3 falls match went over an hour and is one of my favorite matches ever. Those are really long matches, but at no point did they drag and feel like it was just wasting and buying time. They were slow burns, but every really long match starts off slow but builds and builds and builds and builds. This match started off slow, built a little bit, built, but then stop. And it was like they went back to the first act of building up a little bit. And then they would build and build and build and things would get good, and then they would just stop. And just postulate and contemplate. Is this what I really want out of life? What is my purpose? Oh yeah, that's right, we're wrestling. And if you cut out all of that, this would have been about 25 minutes to 30 minutes, and then this would have been perfect. Like, this match was very stop and start, and it was painfully obvious that they were doing it just to make the match longer, and that kind of hurt it for me. I mean, the work was good. The storytelling was good. Everything in this match was good. Just, there was so much, he's just standing there, menacingly! Especially with Shota. Like, I think Shota's a good wrestler, but at least with Zack was selling or doing something. He was moving around the ring. He was obviously thinking about what he's going to do next. Zack never stayed still. He was either selling or preparing his next course of action. Meanwhile, whenever Shota wasn't doing anything, he was just standing there and staring angrily at Zack like an angry Japanese man. Like an intense, angry, serious, stoic Japanese man. And I'm just like, hello? Shota? Are you there? You're supposed to be wrestling! Hello? Wake up! It was like he was in a trance. Like, I'll give Zack Sabre Jr. credit. He was always doing something. He wasn't just standing there blankly. There were a couple parts where Shota was just standing there, just doing nothing. And I was like, hello, snap out of it. But one thing that I will give Shota a lot of credit for, he was supposed to be the babyface in this match, and Zack was supposed to be the heel. The crowd booed Shota out of the building and cheered Zack Sabre Jr. They didn't just stubbornly fight against that. They played with that. They actually went with that and switched their roles a little bit. Like, there was a part where Shota was beating up Zack in the corner, just stomping on him, and the referee, which was also his dad, which, real quick, how is that allowed? How is that allowed for you to referee a match where one of the competitors is your son? Let alone that this is the main event of the biggest show of the year for the main title. How is this allowed? But anyway, so Red Shoes goes over to try to stop him and get him out of the ropes. Shota turns around and shoves his own dad to the ground and goes back over to beat up Zack, which just made the crowd even more angry and boo him more. That was fantastic heel work. And I'm very proud of both guys for going with the flow and just switching up the dynamic to match the crowd to maximize the effectiveness of the match. As much as there was a lot of standing around doing nothing, which annoyed me, whenever they would play along with how the crowd was reacting, the opposite of the way the crowd was quote-unquote supposed to, that was brilliant. That was brilliant, and it was smart. But also, I want to shout out my boy real quick. As much credit and the flowers that I was giving David Finlay earlier, Zack Sabre Jr. looked amazing in this match. This is the best Zack Sabre Jr. has ever looked. Because as much as I love the dude kind of, for the longest time, looked like a very slender toothpick. And while he has an unparalleled grappling ground technical game, he's kind of lacking in the impact move department. And that I like his style, but it's very easy to see how some people do not care for his style because he just does a bunch of submissions and a bunch of chain grappling. He doesn't really do a lot of moves. So I can see how some people would see that as boring. I don't agree, but I can understand the criticism. Well, apparently Zack Sabre Jr. has heard the criticism because he has added to his repertoire. He's added solid strikes. He's added suplexes and different impact maneuvers. The dude actually has a legitimate finishing move now. Although it was over the course of this match and the following night, they did their best to take all the oomph out of Zack's finishing move. So cleverly and eloquently named the Zack driver, which again, it's basically a suplex into a Michinoku driver, which looks great, but literally everyone has been kicking out of it. He even did an avalanche one on both nights. He did an avalanche Zack driver to both Shota and Ricochet. They both kicked out of it, so his finishing move is officially dead. That also annoyed me. But I really enjoyed this match. I really, really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a very good main event. Although, again, it would have been way better if it was way shorter. Cut out all of the contemplating and the pontificating and the pondering life, our meaning, our existence within the greater confines of the universe. You take that out, and this would have been way better. But I thought it was a good match, and overall, I thought, despite some of my criticisms, I did think Wrestle Kingdom 19 was a good show. I do not think it was as good as last year, and it very much felt like a B show, which is not great for it being New Japan's WrestleMania. But again, it still feels like they're in a rebuilding process, so I'm going to cut them a little slack. I did enjoy this show. Could have been better. Could have been worse. There were a couple things that I wasn't super crazy about. But all in all, I did enjoy Wrestle Kingdom 19, and I'm going to give it a modest 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10. This was a good show. The matches that I would highly recommend you go out of your way to watch, I would definitely recommend you go watch the Women's Championship match best women's match I've seen in a while since Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. I would definitely go watch Takeshita versus Shingo Takagi. I would definitely go watch Tsuji versus Finlay for the Global Championship. And if you have 40 minutes to kill, I would go watch the main event. So you have 4 really good matches on this show. Nothing knock your socks off, nothing to completely blow you out of the water, but still 4 very good matches on this show, and some other decent matches. Nothing bad. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Wrestle Kingdom. Now we move on to the following night, Wrestle Dynasty, which was a joint show between NJPW, AEW, ROH, and Stardom. This show was fine. Whereas Wrestle Kingdom 19 felt like a B show that was a setup for another thing, this also felt like a setup show, but more so. It honestly, this felt less like a pay-per-view and more like a long episode of, like a long TV show. This felt like a long episode of Raw or Dynamite with way less promos and just more just wrestling. I did not enjoy... I know a lot of people said that this was the better of the 2 shows. I don't agree. It had one absolutely amazing match. But everything else on the show it ranged from good to to kind of bad. So I will go through everything accordingly. Once again, I did not watch the pre-show. So the actual show started off with an 8-man Lucha Gauntlet match. We had Taji Ishimori versus Hichisero. Prepare for a lot of name butchering. Kozai Fujita, who was in the ladder match, I believe. Saburano Jr., never heard of him. Master Wato, Mascara Dorada, Titan, and El Desperado. This was a spot fest. This was honestly kind of like the casino gauntlet that AEW has been doing, where basically it's kind of a Royal Rumble where people come out at random intervals, except it's one fall to a finish. So first person to get a pinfall or submission wins the match. It doesn't even matter if everyone has entered the match yet. So it was basically those rules. This was fine for an opener. Lots and lots of flippy shit. So if that's not really your thing, then you're not gonna like this match. My biggest criticism of this match is the intervals were way too short. Like literally, one person, like the 2 people would start, and then the 3rd guy would come out, literally do a move, and then the 4th guy would be coming out, and he would literally do 1 to 2 to maybe 3 moves, and then immediately the next dude is already almost at ringside. They were just speeding through this thing as quick as they could. So I was like, you are not giving this match any time. Like, this was the opposite problem from the main event the previous night, where these intervals went by way too quick. Like, they would literally come out, hit a move, and then the next guy would already be coming out. And I was just like, why not just make this an 8-man match? Why use this concept if you're just gonna blow right through the entrances as fast as possible? So that kind of made it hard for me to get into the match. One thing that was funny, though, when El Desperado, who won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title the previous night because the other guy got injured, when he came out to the ring, literally everyone else squared up and was like, that dude has a championship, let's beat him up. And they proceeded to go, all 7 guys proceeded to cut off El Desperado and beat the shit out of him, throw him in the ring, and just take turns beating the shit out of him. That was hysterical. I enjoyed the shit out of that. And then Taji Ishimori rolled up one of them for the 1, 2, 3, and he wins something. He won something. What did he win? I'm not sure, but this was interesting. This was a start to the show. This was the start to the show of all time. Again, just they went through the They went through the intervals way too quick, and it made it hard for me to enjoy the match. But everyone dogpiling and beating the shit out of El Desperado, that was hilarious. That was the best part of the match. Up next, we had the worst and most pointless thing on either show. I don't even know why they bothered. We had Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Katsuyori Shibata in a grappling rules exhibition match. If you like chops, and only chops, then I have the match for you. They went 5 minutes. It was a 5-minute time limit draw. They didn't do anything other than chop each other. And I was just sitting here going, well, what was the point of that? I hated this. I honestly hated this. This was such a waste of time. I understand that, like, New Japan has some beef with Shibata and they refuse to clear him for an actual match. Then don't even do this. Don't do this half and half bullshit. If you're not gonna clear him, then don't have him don't have him be involved. This was such a waste of time. And of course, Katsuyori Shibata nearly died because he headbutted the shit. Because in 2017 he headbutted the shit out of somebody and gave himself a brain bleed. And according to Dave Meltzer, they popped his brain out, fixed it, put it back in. So what does Tanahashi, the president of the fucking company, do? He headbutts Shibata in this match.
Bro, are you fucking serious?
What the fuck were you thinking? I don't care that it was a worked headbutt. Oh my god. When he did that, my jaw hit the floor, and after I picked up my jaw and relocated it into my mouth, I was like, what the fuck were you thinking? Don't headbutt a dude that nearly died of a headbutt. This was the same level of stupid as Rhea Ripley nearly breaking her orbital socket on a headbutt and almost missing months of action, coming back early wearing a face mask, and the first thing she does is a headbutt.
Stop being stupid!
Are you contractually obligated to be a retard if you're a professional wrestler? What is wrong with you people? This should not need to be said. If you get seriously injured on a headbutt, stop doing headbutts. Did we learn nothing from the Dynamite Kid and Chris Benoit? Did we learn nothing? Apparently. And Shibata having to have brain removal repair surgery. Like they're playing fucking Operation. Enough with the headbutts. I'm over headbutts. And of course, at World's End, when we had Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher, they did a spot where a profusely bleeding Will Ospreay had a headbutt battle with Kyle Fletcher. I hate all of you people sometimes. Just stop it with the headbutts. This was such a waste of time. This was my least favorite thing on either show. This was stupid. I hated this. Thumbs down. That headbutt was dumb. This whole thing was dumb. Moving on. This kind of shit is why I liked Wrestle Kingdom 19 more than Wrestle Dynasty. Speaking of head pain, we have a woman that's very good at giving me a migraine. We had Mercedes Moné versus Mina Shirakawa in a winner-takes-all match for the Strong Women's Championship and the Undisputed British Women's Championship. Remember 5 minutes ago when I was like, way too many championships? Again, this was the worst of the two nights. There were so many belts on this fucking show. It's ridiculous. At what point does having a championship mean absolutely nothing anymore? Just too many belts. I hate Mercedes Moné. She has such just immense go-away heat. Although I do think I do think New Japan is a better fit for her than AEW, because in New Japan, she doesn't have to speak as much. Keeping her the fuck away from a microphone is the best thing she can do, because she is straight up cancer on a microphone. But this was a good match, as painful as it is for me to admit, because I fucking hate Mercedes Moné. This was good. Not as good as the previous women's match on the previous night. This was my first time seeing Mina Shirakawa. She's pretty good in the ring. But again, it's hard for me to get into a match where I hate one of the competitors. She did not do 85 bajillion Meteoras like she did against Chris Statlander, so that was good. Although, part of the match was Mina was attacking her leg, and Mercedes was selling her leg. Unfortunately for Mercedes Moné, 99% of her offense includes her using her knees. Because what is her offense? Meteora, that involves the knees. Backstabber involves the knees. Codebreaker involves the knees. Mercedes, why don't you use moves that don't involve your knees? Oh, and of course we had to get the Three Amigos and the Frog Splash because we had to get some Edsturbation. In 2025, I get that Eddie Guerrero is Mercedes' favorite wrestler of all time. I get it. I know that makes her feel all warm and fuzzy inside. It's annoying. She's not good at the lucha stuff. And I'm sorry, but Mercedes Moné, this small, petite woman, giving anyone a suplex is ludicrous. It is every bit as ludicrous as Liv Morgan giving Rhea Ripley a suplex. It is unbelievable. I do not buy that Mercedes Moné can give. I don't believe that she could give fucking Riho a suplex. Stop that. Get some help. So even the commentary was like, because Mercedes Moné kept using her regular offense, which of course was hurting her knees that she was selling, and even the commentators was like, why does she keep using moves that involve her knees? Her knee is hurt. You do something else. Even the commentary was pointing out that Mercedes Moné is an idiot. In kayfabe, in kayfabe in real life, she's dumb as shit. So of course she had to win the match, which made me sad. Not even because I like Mina Shirakawa so much. She's fine. I just hate Mercedes. So Mercedes Moné, a woman who actively drives away viewers, of course they're going to reward her by throwing literally every championship on earth around her tiny little waist. So Mercedes won, and now she has 1 billion championships. She's like doing the Kenny Omega belt collector thing, except she's nowhere near the caliber of Kenny Omega and never will be. This was a good match. It's just, I can't with Mercedes. I cannot with Mercedes Moné. She's good in the ring occasionally. But just her personality, like her real life personality and her just everything just annoys me. This was fine, but the clearly inferior women's match of the weekend, and the wrong person won. I'll just say that. Up next, we get to where I felt like I was just watching a random, just AI generator simulator match where just people were paired against other people at random. We had David Finlay versus Brody King in a singles match. For some reason, these two random guys just randomly fighting because Tony Khan likes smashing action figures against each other because fun. This was fine. Brody King just beat David Finlay's ass for most of the match. But David Finlay actually got to showcase some of his power. It was impressive in the previous, like in the previous night against Tsuji. He picked him up for 3 consecutive dominators and just powerhoused him around the ring. That was impressive. He was impressive in this. I will say, over this weekend, I am a fan of David Finlay now. Dude looks great. He looks completely different. And he's a powerhouse. He is deceptively powerful, and he looked great. But I don't have all that much to say about this match because, like, this was a TV match. It was fine. Both guys looked good. It's just, it felt random. There was no story going in. And then David Finlay just won. Yay. It was a thing that happened. This match was a thing that happened. And again, there wasn't all that much to talk about because not all that much happened. Brody King has way too many tattoos. It was honestly a dude with way too many tattoos versus a guy with just enough tattoos. And honestly, I would have made the stipulation of the match. Loser of this match has to get the opposite amount of tattoos. If Brody King loses this match, he has to lose tattoos. If David Finlay loses this match, he has to gain more tattoos. All right. That honestly, that was the most entertaining thing about the match. It was like, I'm watching a dude with way too many tattoos versus a guy with just enough. And sure enough, the dude with just enough tattoos won. Because I guess that's just how... That was the universe correcting itself, I guess. I don't have all that much to say about this match. Or the next match, honestly. Because up next, we had Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli in a singles match. Which, again, I will say this till I'm blue in the face. Cesaro is such a better name than Claudio Castagnoli. It's not even funny. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the John Moxley Association. But Claudio has no aura anymore. He had an aura about him back when he was Cesaro. But now he's just another guy. This match was fine. But just like the previous match, this was just a random match thrown together because reasons. And at least in this one, the announcers tried to tell a story, and that Shota Umino is a John Moxley trainee, one of John Moxley's proteges. So this was kind of a test from the Death Riders of some sorts to see, I don't know, if he's good at wrestling, I guess. There was some semblance of a story, but I didn't really care because everything the Death Riders is involved in is complete and utter garbage. But this was fine as a match. I like that Shota won with a double underhook DDT. That was cool. But this was another TV match. What do you want me to say? It was just a match. It was a match that happened. This is another reason why I liked Wrestle Kingdom more than this show. Because on Wrestle Kingdom, every match felt like it had a purpose and a point, and there was a reason why it was happening, and there was a story behind it. This show, there were several matches because. I'm going to need more than that. Again, I don't have all that much to say about this other than it was a thing that happened, so I'm just going to move on. Up next, we had a very, very good match. Konosuke Takeshita versus Tomohiro Ishii for both the Never Openweight title and the AEW International title. My criticisms of too many belts continues, but besides that, this was an even better match than the previous match that Takeshita had the previous night. This was, once again, two big, scary-looking guys beating the absolute shit out of each other. And this is the best that Ishii has looked in a while. Ishii does not look good on AEW television. He just does not. He is so out of his element. But this is the Ishii that I know and like. This is the Ishii that I respect. I don't know what it is, but these New Japan guys often just do not look as anywhere near as good on AEW, and they actually look good on New Japan. I don't know what it is, but they just feel out of their element on AEW television, and they feel in their element when they're on New Japan. I don't know what it is. But again, they had a fantastic match. They beat the shit out of each other once again. I don't know how Takeshita hasn't just knocked someone out cold with these vicious elbow strikes of his. I don't know how he hasn't just straight up knocked someone's teeth out. And I love Tomohiro's gimmick of he's the Stone Pitbull. It's very hard to hurt him. He was no-selling the power strike knee strikes, but the forearms to the jaw knocked him out like a light every time. I thought that was fabulous. But of course, we had to kick out of the Raging Fire, and then do an avalanche one for a kick out, and then a second regular one is the one that gets the 1, 2, 3. I didn't like that. But other than that, I thought this was great. I thought this was a great match between these two. They beat the fuck out of each other. It was a hard-hitting Japanese wrestling match, and I loved it. And Konosuke Takeshita, go to WWE, please. 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 Or TNA. Go to a company that's good or a company that has hope. Like, maybe one day New Japan will have hope. Honestly, New Japan needs to get away from AEW and just do their own thing. AEW is such an infinite negative just vortex of doom. I mean, look at what it's done to ROH. Look what it's done to itself. Just get Takeshita to TNA or WWE, please. For the love of God. Save this man's career. Up next, we had the Young Bucks versus the United Empire versus Los Ingobernables de Japón in a three-way tag team match for the vacant IWGP tag team titles. And I skipped it. Once again, I said this earlier, I am done with multi-man tag team matches. If it's two teams, okay? One team versus another. No more at all. I'm done with these triple threat tag team matches. I'm done with these fatal four-way tag team matches. Next, I'm good. Also, I'm over the Young Bucks. I don't need to see them wrestle ever again. I'm good. But up next, we had another match that just kind of felt like a random TV match that just happened because reasons. Yota Tsuji retaining his newly won Global Heavyweight title against Jack Perry. This was fine. Yota Tsuji looked good. Jack Perry. This scapegoat shit is so old and overdone. Even my dog outside doesn't like it anymore. But this was fine. Again, this felt like another TV match. My problem with the show, most of the matches just felt like meaningless TV matches for no real reason. I will say, there was one spot in this match that actually made me go, "Oh shit, that was good." Yota tried to come flying out of the corner for a spear, and Jack Perry cut him off in midair with his running knee strike. That was dope. I really liked that spot. It actually looked devastating. It's the most devastating knee strike Jack Perry has ever done. So of course Tsuji kicked out of it, of course. But then he hit him with a big spear and nearly cut Jack Perry in half with a spear and got him for the 1-2-3. Again, this was fine. I don't care about Jack Perry. It's very hard for me to get into anything, and it's not even because of the whole CM Punk thing. Although that's a small part of it. It's more that this scapegoat gimmick is so old and no one cares, and they need to do something else with Jack Perry, because this ain't it. It's kind of telling to me that every AEW wrestler that challenged for a championship or like a New Japan championship of some kind on this show and the previous, all of them won those matches. Like, Takeshita is an AEW guy. He won a New Japan championship. Mercedes Moné, she's AEW. She won her championship match. The Young Bucks won the IWGP Tag Team titles. They're AEW guys. The only AEW guy, I believe, to lose, well, actually Ricochet lost as well, but it just tells me that, like, they know that he's not all that. Because Jack Perry was one of the few AEW people to lose. But again, Yota Tsuji just won the title. He's not going to immediately lose it. But this is one of those matches where I was like, okay, that happened. It had its moments, but you can really just see how low on the totem pole Jack Perry is now, despite his BFFs, the Young Bucks, and Tony Khan. So doesn't speak very highly of Jack Perry the way this match went. But again, this was fine. But up next, we had what was easily the best match of the weekend. Honestly, the best match of the week, including Raw on Netflix. I thought this was better than Seth Rollins and CM Punk. We had the return of Kenny Omega going up against Gabe Kidd. This was awesome. This was a fantastic match. And this is actually the first time I've ever seen Gabe Kidd in action. So I never heard of him before this. I'm a fan. He's like a more thick and angrier. He's like a thicker, angrier Oney Lorcan. He's a thicker, angrier, more Britisher, British-ish. He's a more British Oney Lorcan, who's also thicker and angrier. Have I established how angry and thick he is and how British he is yet? But yeah, I do have a complaint, though. I have one criticism of this match. I didn't mind the ref bump that led to the tables being used, that led to the double juice. I actually love the double juice. This was the only match of the weekend that had juice. And that added to the match and is what pushed it over the top as far as being the match of the week is concerned. I didn't mind any of that. The fucking chairs, though. When they put a bunch of chairs in the ring, I groaned. And every time they used chairs, I groaned. There were stiff chair shots to the head in this match. Some unprotected. And I use the term stiff loosely. Not because they didn't swing it hard. This wasn't a Nia Jax changing her mind mid-swing and just not swinging anymore. It wasn't that. Like, they legit hit each other in the head with chairs. It's just these New Japan chairs suck. These chairs suck. They look like they're made out of plastic. There's no way these things hurt. And if they do, they don't look like they hurt. Like at least WWE and AEW have the metal chairs. Like, I ranted about this earlier. These chairs fucking suck. Stop using them. New Japan, get better chairs. Please. You're killing me. But Kenny Omega, it is amazing how he has been out for over a year, nearly died because of diverticulitis, comes back and looks like he hasn't missed a step. Like, this was New Japan Tokyo Dome Kenny Omega. And he did a good job selling his midsection. He was selling the diverticulitis, which does sound ridiculous when I say it out loud. But, like, every time he did, like, a big move, he would clutch his midsection, and he just sold it, and Gabe Kidd went after it during the match, and they just beat the shit out of each other. And they got double juice, and it looked... Kenny Omega was bleeding buckets. It was brutal. And it was great, and they beat the shit out of each other. The story of the match was great. This was the match where Chris Carlton, whatever his name is, went in hard about Tony Khan being a money mark. And I thought that it was a work. I thought that they were feeding him lines to, like, sell the AEW versus New Japan rivalry. Apparently he legit got in trouble over his comments, which, if that's the case, it just goes to prove once again Tony Khan is a giant pussy and a petty little bitch, and AEW is never going to succeed as long as Tony Khan is in charge of it. Everything he does proves that time and time again. Tony Khan is the worst, the absolute worst. He can't even take a dude working. He can't even take worked insults. Just a pathetic pussy-ass bitch. That is Tony Khan. But that added to the match. And, like, everyone was fantastic in this. Other than the stupid, goofy-looking, unthreatening-looking chairs that New Japan insists on using. Other than that, this was great. This was a fabulous first impression of Gabe Kidd for me. I want to see more of him. Dude was great in this match. He more than held up his end of the bargain with Kenny Omega. This was great. If there's one match, of all of the shows, like Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty, Raw, my show TAW Action, which hopefully you will go back and watch when you're done listening to this review. Shameless plug. If there's one match from this whole week that you need to go out of your way to go see, it is definitely Omega and Gabe Kidd. They put on I don't know if it's going to be a match of the year. I do think people are overrating it just a tad. Because, again, I hated everything that had to do with the chairs. That was my one criticism. But I do think it's a little overrated. But it's still very good and easily the best match of the week. It was very good. And Kenny Omega, I look forward to seeing what he does next. If we get more of this Kenny Omega, I'm sold. Because you guys know me. I love Kenny Omega. He's one of my favorites. I look forward to seeing more. He's so damn good. And when he gets serious and just drops all the goofy shit, which he's more than capable of, and this whole match was him being serious Kenny Omega is second to none. He is so good at this. So after what should have been the main event, we had the actual main event, which was also a really good match. Which kind of pains me to say, we have Zack Sabre Jr. defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Ricochet. Not gonna lie, I kind of feel similarly about Ricochet as I do Mercedes Moné. They're taking Ricochet in an interesting direction on Dynamite. They've made him a psychotic villain because he attacked Swerve Strickland with a pair of scissors. So they're leaning into him being a massive goober, being an absolute raging dipshit, but that doesn't make him not a raging dipshit. Just Trevor Manchild is as what I like to call him. So if they lean into this gimmick and they pull it off, then mazel tov to them. But I have severe reservations. As for this match, this was very good because Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet have very different styles, but they clash very well. They work very well together. And considering that Zack Sabre Jr. has fleshed out his moveset and just has become a better all-around performer, I will say the one weakness that is still in Zack Sabre Jr.'s game, which, considering the promotion he works for, so it's not that much of a problem, he's not bad at promos. Zack Sabre Jr., he's just nothing special on promos. He's very average when it comes to promos. He's just angry British dude. He's angry, smug, asshole British dude, which is most British people when they're on the mic. Most British wrestlers that talk on the mic come off as snooty. He's snooty British dude, number 45 on the mic. But again, in New Japan, promos on the mic don't really matter that much. The in-ring is the drawing factor, and expressing your character and what you're good at in the ring, when the bell rings, that's what's important. So in this is the best environment for Zack Sabre Jr. If he was in WWE or AEW, God forbid, it would be tougher for him to get over because again, he doesn't have the most outstanding personality. He's really good at being a smug bastard. So if he ever does come to WWE, please, don't go to AEW. If he ever goes to any other company, he really needs to dial up being a smug asshole. Because that would be good. He's really good at that. But this match was really good. They have really clashing styles in the best way possible. You can tell they've worked together before because they have chemistry. Again, Zach, you need a new finisher, not because your finisher is bad, but because your finisher has been buried. Your finisher is dead. Because on the previous night, Shota Umino kicked out of several, including an avalanche one. And on this show, in this match with Ricochet kicked out of several, including an avalanche one, when he had no business kicking out. I understand Shota Umino kicking out of a bunch of finishers because it was the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. If you're going to kick out of a bunch of finishers, have it be the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, have it be the main event of WrestleMania, have it be the main event of your biggest show of the year. I get that. Did Ricochet need to kick out of all of Zack Sabre Jr.'s finishers? No, he did not. He did not need to kick out of 3 Zack drivers. Ridiculous. Although I will say, I will give Ricochet props for this one spot where he missed the 630. Holy shit, this bump he took. Ow. If I tried to do that, if I landed on my back like that, I would immediately become the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I would immediately give myself spinal bifida. That landing was ow. That had to have sucked. But then we get to the finish where Zack ties him up in one of his just grotesque ow, ow, ow looking submission holds. And you can loudly hear Ricochet saying, "I give up! Yes, I give up!" Which made me laugh. Because again, his gimmick is he's a goober. So of course he has to loudly submit like a wailing infant. That made me laugh. And Zack Sabre Jr. becomes, like, he made history. He's the first non-Japanese person to win the main event of Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. And he's the first IWGP world champion to retain his title in 2 consecutive nights. So they're really going in hard, pushing Zack Sabre Jr. as the main guy in New Japan. And this iteration of Zack Sabre Jr., I approve of that. This is the best Zack Sabre Jr. we've ever gotten. Both this match and the previous match were very good, although the match with Shota was way too long, as I described. So Wrestle Dynasty overall, it definitely had its highs, but it also had its lows. It was a show. It was a show that happened. I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as Wrestle Kingdom 19. I didn't think it was bad. It was fine. I'm going to give Wrestle Dynasty 2025. I gave Wrestle Kingdom a 6.5. I'm going to give this show a 5.5. So a little, like, thumbs in the middle, leaning upwards. It's just the Tanahashi Shibata exhibition was dog shit. I hate Mercedes Moné. I skipped the 3-way tag, and there were several just, why is this match happening matches. There were like 3 or 4 matches where I was like, why? There's no reason for this. This is just because. You can't have a match just because. It makes it painfully uninteresting. Which a lot of this show was just painfully uninteresting. But we did have some really good matches like Takeshita and Ishii, Omega and Gabe Kidd, and the main event. So there was definitely some good to balance out the bad, and just enough good to put it over the hump. So again, 5.5 out of 5. So overall, this was a good weekend of wrestling. Not everything was good. There was a lot of skippable stuff, but there were some really good matches that I do highly recommend. So there you have, ladies and gentlemen, my in-depth, somewhat as in-depth as I can be, just going an hour and a half talking about like 20 matches. Those are my thoughts on New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty 2025. Did you watch these shows? What are your thoughts on these shows? Do you agree with me that New Japan needs some new hardware that actually looks threatening? Because these chairs suck ass and they ain't it. They don't hit. As the kids say, they don't have that aura. I hate myself. So thank you guys so much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.